Okay, we're at the beginning, and this is all about doing projects in Sage. And what I want to do is, talk about how to read a doc, how to start it. You start by reading it from page number one, and you move your way forward. So I'm going to make some assumption that you probably worked your way through this, but you're still confused about how to start. I'm going to go to Project A, and when I get there, I'm going to read the instruction to you. It says, retype the Sage code presented on this project page, and save the completed project as a Jupyter notebook, file extension, blah 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 blah. They talk about the format, how to save it. They have a course number, CRN, student number. I'm sorry, course CRN, student number, course number, project letter, .ipynb. That's a typical extension for a Jupyter notebook, by the way. All right. And then they say after you do complete the project, you mail to this address over here. So what I want to do is going to go to search, and I'm going to search for Sage now. I want to launch Sage. So let's search, and I'm going to type in Sage Math, and let's take a look. The application, I see it here. And what I'm going to do is, I normally run it from the terminal, but I want to load it from a Jupyter notebook. Now you may not have a Jupyter folder yet. I recommend you create one. All right, I recommend you create one. So let me just select, and let me get my Jupyter notebook. Give me 1 second. My documents, Jupyter, right here. And let's choose, and let's launch it, okay? So I want to repeat this. Normally I do it from the command line. You may have to create a Jupyter notebook folder. You're going to select it. It'll appear here, and then you're just going to launch it. All right, now in the future I don't have to select it anymore. Once I select it, it's going to always open that one up there. So I'm going to launch it. So it's going to launch a web browser. And what I want to do is I want to do a new one. All right, I've typed it in for you, new. And what I want the Sage Math. All right. Now, what I want to do is I want to save it as a name, of course. So let me just go over to this over here, and I guess what I need to do is change the name, right? So I'm going to save as. Now I'm just going to type in something random. Let's say the CRN is 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6. And let's say your student number is 1, 2, 3, 0, 9, 8, 7, 6, 5. Let's say the course number is, well, this is 119, so I'll put 119. Whoops. And this is Project A. All right, what's the letter? The letter's A. Right? Dot IPYNB. All right, let's save. Now, of course, I actually don't like using this interface, but you may. Some people like it, all right? I'll talk about what I like doing, but you could type in like 1 plus 2. Now, if you hit enter, nothing's going to happen. Let me back up. I'm going to put shift return, and I get an output of 3. I'm going to save the file. And remember, we'd have to locate that file now, right? So I'm going to just select this over here. Whoops, sorry about that. Copy. I'm going to go to my search. I'm going to search for that. And I think I see it right here. You see that? Right? Search in Finder. And I see it. It's right here. All right. I found it. All right. Now, so what do you do with that? Well, you're going to email it, right? And you're going to email. I'm going to drag that. And I'm going to drag it to my mail program. Where's my mail program? Oh, it's right there. Look at that. See that mail? Open it up. And who am I going to mail it to? Assignments@mathography.org. Again, if you can't remember that, I want to point out it's in the document. I can get back to the document. Give me a second. Right over here, assignments@mathography.org. Actually, I'm not going to mail it, all right? But you get the idea. You could do that, all right? So what I want to do is I want to talk about my preferred way of using Sage. I don't like using Jupyter notebooks. All right. And by the way, I understand the reason a lot of schools want Jupyter notebooks. They're super easy to share. Super easy to share. What do? You create a file with the IPYNB on it, and you can share it with your teachers, your colleagues, research documents. You can share your documents. All right. I actually prefer using the terminal, and the reason for that is it's really a quick and dirty way of doing things. So what I want to do is I want to go back to Sage. Oops, sorry about that. I didn't mean to do that. Go back. I shouldn't have been launching Zoom. Let me get rid of the Zoom. I'm going to launch a command line terminal application instead. I'm going to launch it. And it opens up my terminal window. I actually prefer this, and I think an awful lot of people do. They spend a lot of time in terminal applications, and it just launched Sage for me. It's an application. All right. Let me open up another terminal window for you, and just point out it's a terminal. It's a Unix terminal, so like Unix commands work like ls, finger, last. Whoops, sorry about that. Uptime, top. You get the idea. A lot of different things I could be typing in over here. Trace route, all kinds of things. Let me close this window out. I'm not interested in doing my Unix commands over here. Close it out. And I'm back with the Python stuff, right? So I'm going to say another way to do this, and it might seem like a really, kind of a dirty way of doing it, but it's something that you probably should learn how to do anyway. Reset. Now I don't need to shift return. I just need to do a return now. Reset. I want to warn you against copy paste. I'm just going to do a quick copy paste here and tell you why copy paste is such a bad idea. You're going to see something happen over here. It says there's invalid characters being used. And that is so typical. When you're in computer science and you're copying from the web, you're going to copy invalid characters. I'm going to correct them. And you notice those hash marks are a little bit different now. Do you see that? That worked. I don't want to type this in for you, but I'm going to type in something a little bit simpler, though. I'm going to type in P1. What is it going to be assigned? I'm going to say 2 star x squared. I'm not going to type in everything, by the way. Minus 3 star x star y. No, I'm not typing the same thing in. Plus 2y star x squared minus y cubed. Wow, I made a mistake. And where's the mistake I made? Let's take a look at what I've done. I see it right away. And it's going to happen to you a lot of times. I'm going to make a mistake. Get my cursor key and go back over it. I said 2yx. It's actually 2 star. I'll type in the star now. All right, let's hit return now. I did okay. I can display P1 for you. And I see P1. All right. Now, so what else you want to do? A lot of things you could do. I'm going to say I'm not really that interested in just typing that up. I think you should be interested in typing that up. But what I want to do is I want to just go through this a little bit more. You type in that stuff yourself. And I'm going to do an implicit plot now. So I'm going to say IP1 is going to be assigned implicit plot. I just did the cap key because I don't want to type that whole thing in there. And then I'm going to say P1 is an equation that's equal to 0. And I'm just playing. I don't know how it's going to work out. It's not the same thing they're doing. X goes between minus 5 and 5. And the Y, you're going to make mistakes, by the way. Again, I'm kind of just packing around here, and I'm learning. I did pretty good there. The machine didn't blow up. IP1.show. Well, I got a graph. Right, and that might be a great graph, but I did get a graph. All right, I got a graph of it. You might want to play around with it now because you've learned something. And what I mean by playing around with it, you can go back over the code. For example, let's say I wanted to change the numbers over here. Let's say I wanted to do, like minus 10 instead. to 10. Whoops. And I'm going to do the Y from minus 10 to 10. Hit return. And then I'm going to type in IP show. And I get a different picture. I hope you realize what I just did over there. First picture I got was between minus 5 and 5 in both directions, and it's between minus 10 and 10 in both directions. It's not a bad looking graph, by the way. All right, it's something it might be informative to you. Who knows? All right, so let me repeat this, and we'll go back over the beginning of it. What do you need to do? Well, hopefully you got Sage on your machine running. So what are you going to do? You're going to launch Sage. Let me repeat that again for you. You may have to create a Jupyter Notebook folder for you. I did already, but you have to do that. Put it anywhere you like, but you have to find it and select it. Once you do that, you launch it. And then what you're going to do is a new file. And it's going to be a Sage Math 9.4. And I would say change the name of that document to the format that they want it. You know, that's CRN, blah, blah, blah. But you know what? For the time being, you might as well just call it test project at this point. You can always rename it later. All right, rename. And then you type the commands in. Like, for example, remember reset was our first one, right? Remember, hit return, nothing happens. Shift return, it's going to reset. All right, then what do? You type in the next thing, which I believe was XY was a variable. I can remember that part, right? Whoops, I just hit return. I don't want to do that. What do I want to do? Shift return. And then what do you want to do? Well, you want to type in a polynomial. I think we called it P1, and we're going to assign it something. Now, granted, I don't want to type this in for you. Type in whatever you feel like typing in that you want to learn, like maybe 2x cubed minus 3x, whoops, 3x squared minus 2 star x squared star y cubed. I'm just making this stuff go along. Remember, I hit the return, nothing happened. Shift return, I get something. If I want to display P1, I just type in P1, shift return, I see it. Now, if I want to, get something done here, you might say, I can't remember what you did, but remember I called there's an image file. And I think you probably remember me doing that. And let me just go over here and point that out to you. Right over here, IP1. Let me type this in for you. IP1, this is a name. I'm going to assign it implicit plot. I hit the tab key, and implicit plot, I see it right over here. And then I'm going to type it in. What do I want to type in? And again, if you can't remember, you look at that. I'm going to say, let's see, I guess we're going to do P1. Right, I want to point out what we're doing over here, and then we put a range for both x and y down. And let me do that. It's a little bit different. X between minus 5 and 5. And I'm going to do the y now. And again, the code is all written up for you for a reason. We want you to copy the code. And the y will be between minus 5 and 5 as well. And now it's not return, but it's shift return. And what do? I want to do, again, if you can't remember, it's all over here, IP1 show. I know it says 2 over there. It's a different graph, by the way. IP1 dot show. Now, granted, I don't know what this is going to look like. All right, I didn't spend any paperwork on this thing here. Shift return. And what happens? I get a graph. All right. Now, if you want, you can play around with it. What's nice about Jupyter Notebooks, you can just back up and put down minus 10 to 10. And this is going to be minus 10 to 10 as well. I'm just playing around. I'm not saying it's going to get me a better picture. Shift return. And then I'm going to do IP show now. Shift return. And I get a different picture over there. I think you can follow along with what we've done so far. All right. Now, granted, that's using a Jupyter Notebook. All right. By the way, these are being stored on your computer. I know it looks like it's on the web browser, but the web browser is just an interface to Sage. Right. What interface do I prefer, though? Let me remind you. I actually prefer using a terminal application. All right. So if you go back to Sage, and you say command line, terminal, and launch it, a terminal application will open up. Now, someone says, don't you already have one running? Yeah, I can run as many as I like. All right. Now, by the way, that's an exaggeration. Machines have limits, by the way. I mean, if you keep launching a Sage server, and you got hundreds of them running, it's probably going to slow your machine down. All right. By the way, having the thing running on your computer is much better than running it on the web. All right. I really do believe that. All right. Your mileage may vary. You work this thing the way you want to work it. All right. There's no perfect way of doing something. Although I say I like the terminal, other people like Jupyter Notebooks. The advantage of the Jupyter Notebooks, though, they're really easy to share. Thank you.